Hi, all. My name is Meg Borland, and I'm the owner of Equilibrium ADR. I am an ADA coordinator and consultant with experience in the legal and civil rights fields. Over the past few months, I've been asked questions related to experiences that people have had at various events in which they believe there has been ADA discrimination. They want to know what they can do about it, how to handle it going forward, and where to go for more information. So I'm working on some videos that will help answer those questions and hopefully other questions as they keep coming in. And now we've reached disclaimer time. Disclaimer, disclaimer. And I say this with jazz hands because I really mean it. The following is not legal advice. It is information for educational purposes and resources for you to explore. You can take it or leave it. Your choices are up to you. So the questions I received were centered around conventions, namely comic conventions, anime conventions, sci-fi conventions, those types of things. Also, we're starting to see more themed events like themed parties, masquerade balls, any of those types of things that are starting to get more popular. I did receive a few questions about those as well. So these are the topics I'll be addressing in this series of videos. There are all kinds of different events out there. I'm not going to cover all of them. These are just based around the specific questions I received. So the various conventions and themed events that I mentioned in the previous slide, these are covered under Title III of the ADA, and that prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability in the activities of places of public accommodations. What that means in short is it covers businesses that are open to the public. So these conventions are owned by businesses and they are open to the public. So ADA Title III applies to them. Under Title III of the ADA, discrimination occurs when an entity or business that is subject to its provisions fails to fulfill its obligations to provide reasonable accommodations and access to individuals with disabilities. Covered businesses and entities are required to make reasonable accommodations for individuals with disabilities to access their facilities or use their services. So, what this means for a convention or event is that the programming and services that happen throughout the event need to be as enjoyable to people with disabilities who paid to be there as it is for people who paid to be there. And those reasonable accommodations are not necessarily anything big. A lot of times it is very simple addition to their programming that makes things accessible to the participants with disabilities. So you're out at an event and you've experienced a situation that is definitely problematic. You're not sure if it's necessarily an ADA violation, and you're kind of wondering what to do. That's one of the questions I received. So I've put together some information here for going forward. So your first step after a situation is to collect as much information about what happened. You want to, like, what happened? You want to make specific notes of the incident. And the more specific you can get, the better. Where did this happen? Again, specific location, saying, well, outside the bathrooms. Well, okay, some hotels have a lot of different bathrooms. So outside the bathroom near the atrium, that's something that can give a better understanding of where something took place at an event as opposed to, a generalized location. So who was involved? If you can get the names of the people involved, that's great. If not, then a detailed description. They were really tall. They had dark hair that was down to their collar. They were wearing a blue shirt, any of that type of stuff, so that they can you can fill in the blanks and potentially find out who was involved when you're reporting this. So, were there witnesses? Can you get the names of those people? A lot of people are quick to stand up and say, "Hey, I'll speak up for you. I'm willing to testify, or I'm willing to whatever." Well, to do that, you need their names. And, if you're going forward in potential claims, you're going to need to know how to get hold of them. So if you can get an email address or, their username on Discord or, phone number if they're willing to give it, any of that type of stuff. Don't give them yours and say, oh, call me back. Get theirs, because a lot of people, out of sight, out of mind. You want to make sure that you have their information. So if you can get photos of where it took place, if you could get photos of, what happened, this is a day and age of the cell phone. Everybody tends to be pretty quick to snap pictures and record things. So if you're able to do that safely, that, a picture's worth 1,000 words, videos even more. So all of those are really great steps. I cannot stress this enough. Take notes. The information that you capture in that moment can be absolutely critical in later steps. So you want to capture it while it's fresh. Never, never rely on, I'll remember it later. A lot of times situations can bring up adrenaline. And when that wears down, a lot of times so does the detail of what we remember. So you want to capture that. And any information that you capture, whether you write yourself notes or you write it, type out an email and email it to yourself and then save it to a cloud drive, any of those types of things. Never rely on text messages or photos on your phone. When I worked in civil rights, it was absolutely heartbreaking to see a client who dropped her phone in a puddle and the phone was damaged beyond salvaging. The photos that she needed to prove her claim were on that phone and that only on that phone. So she was unable to go forward with her civil rights claim because she didn't have the evidence because, an accident happened. Life happens. So always keep those things safe. If you write notes to yourself, take a picture of it with your cell phone so that you've got a backup copy in case, the piece of paper gets mistaken for something else and gets thrown out, or someone else takes it for whatever reason. You always want to have a backup so that you're never without the information that you need going forward. So you've collected all your information, you've got your photos and your notes all safely tucked away. The next step is going to be to inform the event. And this is really important because an event can't fix something if they don't know that it happened. So just because one staff member may have seen something, it doesn't mean that that information has gotten trickled upwards to the people who need to know, and are the ones responsible for making the decisions on behalf of the event. So you're going to want to check maybe the event page, or in some cases, a Discord server where they chat, and see if there's any kind of information for who to contact if there's a problem during the event. Not necessarily, problems with registration or some of the other stuff that they'll put out saying, hey, contact us if there's a problem. But see if there's any type of information. A best business practice for an event would be to have that information available, for people to be able to know who to contact so that the pertinent information gets into the right hands in a timely manner. If the page has an ADA section that talks about where to request reasonable accommodations, that type of thing, sometimes there will be information on who their ADA coordinator is or the staff member that oversees that. And you can get in touch with those people directly as opposed to playing a giant game of telephone and going through staff member to staff member to staff member. So if you can't find contact information, any of that stuff, then you want to try to get to, the highest up staff member that you can. And that does not mean going and demanding to speak to, the owner or the president or whatever. But perhaps like con ops or any of the directors who might be running. If an incident happened in the vendor hall, then maybe the vendor coordinator, because that is their purview. Or if there's specific events, there might be somebody who's over those particular events. So speaking to the person as high up as you can without necessarily going all the way up. If the staff is available to get you the highest up person that they can, that is phenomenal. But it's not always doable. So trying to find somebody who is in charge of the particular situation that you're dealing with. So again, when you speak with them, you want to keep notes for yourself. Who did you speak to? Get their name and their title. When and where did you speak to them? That's going to include your date, the time that you spoke to them, like the location. Once again, like that, we were in the main lobby behind the reg table. Okay, then That way it's going to be likely that if you can pin it down, not saying anybody will necessarily say, oh, it didn't happen, but maybe somebody walked by and saw them talking to you and said, oh yeah, I know, I remember that conversation happened. That can kind of make things, go a little easier sometimes. And then write down, what did you tell them? So this is where taking those notes, and if you can, maybe give them a written statement about what happened. And if you do that, if you write out your statement and you're like, I was at this event and this thing happened, this person said this stuff, what have you. Um, on that page, you're going to write the date and the time that you had the conversation with the staff member. And once again, you're going to snap a picture of it with your phone. So you've got that hard piece of paper that you say, okay, I gave it to this person. This is when and where. So all of these things are little tips and tricks that are used in the professional world. They are used in the civil rights field. They are used in all of these areas when establishing a chain of events with concrete times and place goes a long way, usually because you're laying down a legal, you're about to make a legal maneuver. And so that can sometimes get things taken a little more seriously. So you've had the conversation with the staff member, whether you provided them a written statement or you've had a conversation and they took notes, however that looks. At the end of that, you're going to want to ask them when you can expect someone to get back to you and how. So if they're able to give you a name or a title of somebody right off the bat, because maybe they have an ADA coordinator or a designated staff member who deals with issues that arise during the event, that might give you an indication that the process might go a little smoother, it might go a little faster, and possibly the business is taking this stuff seriously. If they don't know, and it's something where they have to go to management to decide who's going to handle it, that's going to give you the reverse indications that, ooh, this might be a little slower, and maybe they're not taking this seriously. Maybe they need a little more guidance from people who have an idea. It's going to help you kind of assess, how you're feeling about the way they handle attendees. Also, when. So this is a really important one because I know all of us would love to have responses in a timely manner according to whatever it is we're doing. Well, during an event, they can get really hectic. Some events have a smaller staff than others. Um, so, or perhaps the activity that you were doing at the event was a one time situation that just set up the right circumstances for the issue that you experienced to arise, but that event is, or that activity is never going to happen again throughout the rest of the time that the event is happening. So it may not be something that they're able to devote staff to dig into right then and there. It might have to be something that they dig into when the event is closed and they're tearing apart what worked and what didn't. Um, they might look further into the situation and how to resolve it at a later time. So all of these things are kind of important. While it can give you an indication, if you're not happy with how it's going, do not take to social media. I can't stress this enough. If there's any potential whatsoever that you're going to pursue a claim for either a government investigation or a private lawsuit, do not post on socials. Most lawyers will tell you the same thing. Don't do it. It can potentially hurt any claim you may have going forward, depending on what you say. So, the other thing is, it doesn't necessarily inspire the events to help you if you're talking about, what a idiot they are, or how the con staff doesn't have a clue. Whatever it is that, people like to say when they're flaming, just don't. Because give them the opportunity, give them some grace to handle the situation, and if they completely drop the ball on it, later there are other steps you can take. I'll be covering those in the next two videos, that you can, get what you believe you deserve in far better ways than just taking to social media. So those are the important next steps. So we've covered first steps for addressing issues related to accommodations and access at events. For the next steps, including how to pursue a complaint, you'll want to watch the upcoming videos, 88 events, door number 1, door number 2. Profound, I know. Each one covers a different option that's available to you under Title 3 of the ADA. So I hope you all found this helpful. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to put them in the comments and I will try to get to them for upcoming videos that we're going to be doing. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more content. And I will catch you next time. Stay safe, stay well.